1, 2, 3.
Jak and Daxter and the Precursor Legacy was a huge success when it came out. I remember seeing it in stores in the coveted platinum case because
only the best go platinum.
Wait till you see the. No, 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 no.
unlike some of those other questionable platinum games, I really did enjoy Jak and Daxter. It had an interesting world and fun game mechanics, but when it comes to the series as a whole, my feelings are a bit mixed. The Jak and Daxter trilogy is messy. Not in the sense that the individual games are bad, but rather in the way the trilogy is structured. The first game in the series feels almost entirely detached from its sequels, not only in terms of its gameplay, but also in its tone. And yet many of the main characters make their introduction in this title, making the series feel incomplete without it. So let's take a look at where this messy trilogy began. Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy was released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2. It was re-released in HD on the PlayStation 3 in 2012, along with its two sequels, Jak 2 and Jak 3. The game received official PlayStation 4 emulation compatibility in August 2017, and this is the version we will be playing through for this retrospective. As a result, if you notice any unusual anomalies in the footage that you don't recall seeing before, it's most likely due to the emulation. This version's emulation is okay, but I did notice a fair bit of slowdown in several places. And with that out of the way, let us begin.
I have spent my life searching for the answers that my father and my father's fathers failed to find. Who were the precursors? Why did they create the vast monoliths that litter our planet? How did they harness eco, the life energy of the world? What was their purpose, and why did they vanish? I have asked the plants, but they do not remember. The plants have asked the rocks, but the rocks do not recall. Even the rocks do not recall. Every bone in my body tells me that the answers rest on the shoulders of a young boy. Oblivious to his destiny, uninterested in the search for truth, and rejecting of my guidance. And why would he want to listen to old Samus the Sage anyway? I'm only the master of green eco, one of the wisest men on the planet. So it seems the answer begins not with careful research or sensible thinking. Nay, as with many of fate's mysteries, it begins with but a small act of disobedience.
Our two main protagonists, Jak and Daxter, begin the game by exploring Misty Island. This area is swarming with lurkers, which are the main enemies in this game. Daxter is having second thoughts about coming here, but Jak insists on continuing. They come across a meeting with the Legion of Lurkers and two other mysterious characters, who order the lurkers to look for any precursor artifacts and eco near Sandover Village. Jak and Daxter continue their island exploration. Daxter trips over a dark eco container, which he throws to Jak after expressing his disdain for the item. The container lights up as Jak catches it. A bone-armored lurker suddenly attacks them, and Jak, in his first act of heroism, hurls the dark eco container at the creature, killing it but mistakenly knocking Daxter into a pool of dark eco.
Man, that stung! I told you we shouldn't have come here, and you listened! What?
Daxter has been transformed into an ottsel. A fictitious animal that resembles a cross between an otter and a weasel. Although I don't believe he is specifically referred to as an ottsel in this game, that is what the animal is called.
Okay. I'm fine.
When they return to Sandover Village, Samus is not happy.
What in green tarnation do you two want?
Samos tells us about the Sage of Dark Eco, who is the only person with the wisdom to assist Daxter in returning to his human form, or is it elf form? The series is a bit unclear. Characters are never referred to as humans in the game's universe, although they do play the same roles as humans in the world. They do have huge ears though, so that means they're elf. And I've heard them been referred to as elves online, however I'm fairly certain that they are canonically known as humans. Unfortunately for us, none of the other sages have their portals turned on, so we'll have to journey north via the Fire Canyon to meet up with the Dark Eco Sage.
But its volcanic soil is hot enough to melt precursor metal. You can't just walk through it.
But you could fly over it if you had a zoomer equipped with a heat shield.
This is Kira, Samos' daughter and also a talented engineer. She has a zoomer that we can use to navigate the Fire Canyon, but first we need to bring her 20 power cells to power the vehicle's heat shield.
You two couldn't find your way out of the village without training. Before you do anything else, you better go through the warp gate and get some practice on Geyser Rock.
We won't find any more of that dark gooey eco stuff, will we? Cause I'd hate to fall in again and turn into you.
Get in there before I turn you both into ferns.
Warping through the portal, we enter the first level. Well, I guess it's more of a tutorial than a level, but everything you collect here does count towards the main game, which is pretty good. The first Jak and Daxter game is best described as a collectathon platformer, in the similar vein to the original Spyro trilogy and Banjo-Kazooie. Right from the get-go there are some boxes we can break using either the spin move or punch. Inside is some green eco. Green eco is used as health. Collecting 50 of these little blobs will give us an extra hit point. There are also larger green blobs that you can pick up, and by just grabbing one you will gain an extra hit point. Jak's movement speed is determined by how far forward the analog stick is pressed. By slowly increasing the pressure you can make Jak go from walking to running. The animations are really fluid for his run cycles, so it's really easy to gauge how far and fast you're going to travel. This is really important for timing your jumps and maneuvering around the levels. Given this game is a platformer, of course the jumping mechanics are the most important. A simple tap of the X button is all that is required to perform the basic jump. This will help you cross many smaller gaps, but a double jump is required for the larger ones. If you press X again while mid-jump, Jak will perform a double jump, scoring just a little bit more height. Hit circle during a double jump to spin, which serves as both an attack and a way to gain some horizontal distance. You can also use it to avoid taking fall damage. Precursor orbs are one of the main collectibles. They are everywhere in this game. Each level has a set amount of them for us to find. Power cells are the big daddy of collectibles. Reaching certain thresholds will open up new areas. There are a total of 101 power cells, but you do not need to find all of them in order to complete the game. Jak can also perform a ground pound. Using it on these metal crates will release the scout fly. There are 7 in each level. When you find all 7, you're rewarded with a power cell. Scattered about levels, you will come across concentrations of different types of eco. Picking up the blue eco attracts collectibles to you, increases your movement speed, and activates precursor artifacts that have a lightning bolt symbol on them. It is only a temporary power up, and we lose the effect once the meter drains. There are also vents that spew out eco. They will completely fill the meter and do not despawn after use. That's pretty much the basics of the gameplay. Now before we leave, let's check if we have everything. By going into the menu, we can see our progress for each level. This is really useful, especially if you're going for 100%.
We got the moves, eh, Jak? We'd love to stay and chat, Big Green, but we're, itching to get on with our adventures.
Fine, fine. Adventure away then.
We're now free to explore Sandover Village, both Jak and Daxter's home. It serves as a little hub world from which we can visit the other levels. Samos directs us to Sentinel Beach, although you are not required to go there first. We also have the option of venturing into the Forbidden Jungle. There is also a day and night system in the game. It doesn't really affect anything besides the lighting, but it does convey the passage of time. Missions for power cells can also be fulfilled in these small hub locations. Most just require you to bring a specific number of precursor orbs to a specific character. For example, Jack's uncle. We'll trade a power cell for 90 orbs. There are also Oracle Precursor statues with 2 power cells that we can receive in return for orbs. They are concealed in semi-secret spots around each hub area. Sadly, this game does not go into great detail into the lore of the Precursors. All that is actually revealed is that there was an advanced civilization that existed years ago, and remnants of its technology are dispersed around this land. In this little beach area, we can herd these yak owls for the farmer for a power cell. When it comes to missions, this is a bit of an outlier since most of the tasks like this do not take place in hub areas. In fact, I think this is the only one like this in the entire game. Most missions we take on for other characters take place within a specific level, such as assisting the bird lady with the flut egg at the Sentinel Beach.
No!
You'll note that I'm roll jumping a lot on our way into Sentinel Beach. This is due to the fact that this is one of the fastest methods of travel. Jack will enter a roll motion if you press R1 while running forward. Jack will gain a lot of momentum by jumping at the end of the roll. This is great for quickly moving around the levels and jumping across wide gaps. However, once you've launched the jump, you don't have any mid-air control, so make sure you're facing in the exact direction you want to travel, otherwise you'll easily hurl yourself off the side of a platform. Jack will crouch if you press R1 while stationary. You may do a variety of movements from this position. You can crouch walk, which I don't believe is necessary at any point in the game, but you can do it. There's the crouch jump, which is the highest jump Jack can perform without using any power-ups. There's also the crouch punch. When Jack is crouched, pressing square causes him to perform an uppercut into the air. To be honest, it's not all that useful, however hitting these logs will push them up and create some platforms to access higher ledges. Despite the fact that you have a choice between going to Sentinel Beach or Forbidden Jungle, I do believe that the beach level is considered to be the first level. It's designed with wide ledges to make it less probable for inexperienced players to fall off, while unclogging Samus's green eco vents grants access to unlimited full heals. The flut egg can be found further up on this ridge. Knocking it down will cause it to hatch. The bird lady from before will look after the bird for us for the time being. She will be important to us later on. Luckily, or unluckily, for me, Jack can swim. The swimming does not feel very responsive.
Stand up!
No!
Yes!
No, it's too deep. Nah.
Thankfully, it isn't used much. You can dive under the surface for a brief period of time, and that's about it. Swimming too far from shore will get you eaten. Yummo. We need to get to a catapult up on a tower in order to turn it off. However, we will need to employ blue eco to get there. Unfortunately, the vent that normally emits blue eco has been turned off. So in order to collect all of the power cells on the beach, we must travel to the jungle and activate the blue eco. This is an interesting feature of the game where actions in one level have an effect on another. However, the game doesn't do a great deal with this idea, as it usually merely allows you to grab a few collectibles in a given area. In truth, it is a little bit underdeveloped, and may be a bit annoying as it forces you to backtrack into a level if you take on levels in the wrong order. Unless you have previously played the game or follow a guide, there is no way to tell which level should be completed first. A huge precursor tower stands in the center of the Forbidden Jungle. The means of reactivating the blue eco vents are housed within the structure. You get a good sense of Jack's control while exploring the jungle. Because of the snappy controls and great animations, platforming is a lot of fun. Jack's mid-air control is exceptional. It gives you enough wriggle room to change course without becoming sluggish. Short hops are achieved by just tapping the jump button, allowing you to traverse smaller spaces while maintaining speed. The controls are just so good. I'm aware that watching game footage doesn't do a good job of communicating the game feel, but believe me when I say that these controls are nearly perfect for this type of game. The levels are very well suited to Jack's moveset. They're open enough to allow for a variety of platforming challenges, but condensed enough so you don't feel like you have to travel a long way to get to an objective. Standing on this platform activates the blue eco vents that run throughout the levels. A boss encounter with a giant plant is also located within this tower. For some reason in my brain, I always get this boss confused with the boss in Mario Sunshine. I don't know why, I think it's because they're like both plants and like the environment's kind of similar. I don't know. It's just my brain doesn't work properly. In any case, disposing of this boss is a piece of cake. You only need to defeat its minions and then hit it 3 times in the head. Because of course you have to do it 3 times because this is a video game. And that is the law of video games. We make a point of jumping on its head several times to release the orbs inside, which are very easy to miss. We gather a few more power cells in the jungle before assisting the riverside fishermen.
What do you have in the basket?
Nothing to talk about. Them monsters patrolling the ocean took a bite out of me fishing ring. And now they're gobbling up me catch. No matter what I try, I can't seem to catch a single fish in this river.
Woo! Maybe it's your breath.
You think you can do better? Try scooping up river fish with a tiny net. I'll give you a power cell if you can catch 200 pounds of them critters. And then I'll let you and Shrimp here use my speedboat to get to Misty Island. You want to try the challenge? There are 2 types of good fish to catch. 1-pound fishies and 5-pound fishies. If you miss 20 pounds of good fish, then I'm gonna take me net back from you. There are poisonous eels in this river. Catch even one of them boogers, and you'll poison the whole darn catch.
The controls are straightforward. Simply move the net from side to side to catch the fish. It's not difficult to catch the fish, the hardest thing is not catching the eels. I'm not sure why they're called eels, despite the fact that they resemble poisonous fish. Perhaps there was a communication breakdown between the 3D modeler and the person writing the dialogue. Even though we already have 20 power cells to travel across the Fire Canyon, we're going to collect all 101 power cells for this playthrough, so we'll clean up the missing collectibles on the beach before boarding the fisherman's boat to Misty Island.
Wait a minute! We are not going back to Misty Island! Are we?
When Jak and Daxter came out, it was a technical marvel. Naughty Dog strove to make the world as seamless as possible. They accomplished this by removing the loading screens, meaning you can walk from the beginning of the game all the way to the end without hitting a loading screen. Of course the game is loading, it's just masked via careful geometry placement and camera movement. You can also see other parts of the levels in a distance, making the world feel interconnected and a sense of scale that was rarely seen. Our first mission on the island is to catch the sculptor's muse.
Little furry dude! Oh, I thought for a moment you were my muse.
My muse. My muse. The muse is extremely fast and difficult to catch, especially given its ability to jump up to difficult to reach areas such as huge bone formations and higher platforms. However, if you can manage to cut it off, you should have no trouble catching it. Misty Island is a very dark and dingy place. There are numerous enemies strewn about. We can make our first usage of Red Eco here. Red Eco can be utilised to take out stronger foes with a single strike and increase the power of all of Jak's attacks. This comes in handy during the ambush near the Dark Eco pool. This is the only moment in the game that defeated enemies will drop Red Eco. It's also on this island where we make our first use of the zoomer. You just need to take out a few lurkers and collect a few orbs. There isn't much challenge in this area, but it does make for a safer environment to get used to how the zoomer controls before entering the more treacherous Fire Canyon. We have more than enough power cells to cross Fire Canyon. My ass is falling asleep. When it comes to collection criteria, the game is quite lenient. So if there are any aspects of the game that you don't really want to complete or are having difficulties with, they can be skipped, as there are plenty of power cells to go around.
Great! You have the 20 cells needed to power my heat shield. Now be careful. The shield will only protect your zoomer till it reaches 500 degrees.
To make it through the canyon, we'll need to make sure that we hit the oxygen. What the hell's that element? To make it through the canyon, we'll need to make sure that we hit the oxygen. Why am I saying oxygen? Hey, it's not a word. To make it through the canyon, we'll need to make sure that we hit enough oxygen balloons floating about in order to keep the temperature of the zoomer at a safe level. If it gets too high, it will explode. The zoomer, I mean. not the oxygen. What am I talking about? There are dark eco boxes that will also cause you to explode if you hit them. I often find myself dying a few times, mostly because I missed a few collectibles, and dying is the easiest way to backtrack. Dying in this game doesn't have much of a penalty. There is no live system, and dying will just send you back to the last checkpoint. Although in later parts of the game, these checkpoints can be a bit questionable. Sometimes the checkpoints are so sporadic that you have to travel through a large section of a level just to retry. And then there are times when you're sent to a checkpoint that is ahead of you, and it can be very disorientating. My guess is that some of the triggers for the checkpoints are actually quite a bit behind where the checkpoint places you. So when you die, it makes it appear as though you have been teleported forward. Making it through Fire Canyon, we make it to the second hub world, Rock Village. The village made of marshmallows.
Whoa! I don't think I'll ever get used to that teleporter tingling sensation. Hey! It looks like the Blue Sage threw a party.
Oh my! Rock Village is on fire!
One heck of a party.
No, I mean Rock Village is being bombarded with flaming boulders. Oh, and it looks like the Blue Sage is working on a levitation machine to move them. Assuming it's operational, we're gonna need power cells to fuel it. I guess you two are going to have to find some more.
The cutscenes are very well done. The characters serve as excellent guides for the player, ushering them into the plot and providing them with a better knowledge and emotional engagement with what is going on. Though the models aren't as good as those we'll see later in the series, their designs allow them to be posed and animated in quite expressive ways. While the visuals are really lively, the same cannot be said for the music. It's very bland in my opinion. It's ambient and plays quite quietly in the levels that you don't really notice it that much. If you played me some music, I'd recognise it was from the game, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what levels it was from. Forbidden Jungle? Precursor Basin? Just like in Sandover Village, there are a few NPCs that have some missions for us to complete in exchange for power cells, as well as exchanging orbs. A geologist has requested that we herd some lightning moles back into the ground. What is a lightning mole? I don't know. These things. In addition, there is a gambler who wants us to break a course record on our zoomer. Since both of these missions are in the Precursor Basin, we're gonna head there first. The entirety of Precursor Basin must be completed using the zoomer. Now, depending how you feel about driving, this level can either be a blessing or a curse. For me, I'm not very good at driving, but I don't mind some of the missions in the level. Some of them, however, I mind a lot. The zoomer controls can take some getting accustomed to. It handles more like a jet ski rather than a motorbike. Much of the movement is dependent on your momentum. For example, you can perform small bunny hops. You don't go very high and you have to get up to speed and launch yourself off a slope if you want to go higher. However, because there's no brake system to assist you in turning, the short bunny hops are quite effective in helping you turning sharper. The biggest weakness to the zoomer's controls is making a complete 180 turn. You either have to turn really wide or slow down completely to pivot the zoomer. This can make the mission where you have to eradicate these dark plants for Samus quite frustrating, because the whole thing boils down to making these turns, and you only have a certain amount of time to destroy all the plants before they start respawning. Herding the moles and beating the course record are both really easy to complete, with the latter being extremely lenient on the time. The second ring challenge is my least favourite mission in this level. I'm going to explain why. The idea is simple. You must drive through the rings before they vanish. Easy, right? No. However, some aspects of this feel very unfair, as some of the rings appear in unusual off-screen locations. As a result, your flow is disrupted and you can't find the next ring, which means it vanishes. But because it vanished before you can find it, you don't know where it is for the next time. And to try again, you have to drive all the way up this cliff area, which is really easy to fall off, which frustrates you. And since you're frustrated, you start making stupid mistakes. It's all very frustrating. My favourite level in this game has to be the Lost lost Precursor City. It takes place in an underwater city which reminds me a lot of the Bioshock city of Rapture. It has a fantastic mood and the layout is excellent with a few branching paths, yet the level is not so large that you become disorientated. The level is primarily focused on timed platforming challenges. When Jak stands on these platforms, they revolve around each other. They are used to move across gaps that would be impossible to reach by jumping. You must use caution when swimming in this area's water because it is set to be electrified. Fortunately, it's not an instant kill, so you still have a chance even if you mess up the timing. This level even includes a power cell that can be collected outside of the level. Now that I say that sentence out loud, it doesn't really make that much sense. If you use the elevator, it will take you to the surface. You can then grab the power cell. The jump to acquire it is a little tricky, but it is doable. The easiest method to get it is to take the elevator back down and get it that way. One of the platforming segments does feel a little undercooked. It's set up as a kind of puzzle where you have to jump on the squares to change them all to blue. You need to make sure this is done while ending near the door that opens, but it's so simple that it barely even registers as a puzzle. Most players will probably just get it by accident. Collecting this power cell will cause dark echo to rise. By utilizing blue echo where you can, you must run up the chamber before the dark echo engulfs Jak. Unlike with Daxter, if Jak falls into a pool of dark echo, he just dies. He doesn't get to be an Otsul. It's never explained why. Fuck. Boggy Swamp. Boggy Swamp, not Boggy Swamp. Boggy Swamp is the area's final stage. Well, I guess if you go there last, it's the final stage. You don't have to, but I did. But before we can enter the swamp, we need to bring the soldier 90 precursor orbs to reposition the pontoons. We get to use yellow echo for the first time in the swamp. Jak can use yellow echo to shoot projectiles, strike enemies and demolish objects like these metal containers. We must use this echo to cut the tethers on the lurker balloon. The tethers are scattered across the swamp and we must work our way through it to find and destroy them all. The swamp itself is quite linear. It follows a predetermined path with a few offshoots where you can jump to gather a few collectibles. It is possible to complete it backwards by jumping onto this ledge, though I would not recommend completing the level in this manner because the platforming and bar swinging do not flow as well. To swing from bars, simply jump on them and then jump again when you reach the desired rotational direction. The only drawback is that you can't turn Jak around when swinging. We will finally ride the flut that hatched from the egg on Sentinel Beach in a section of the swamp. Riding the flut is a lot of fun. Also saying the word flut is fun. Flut. She has the ability to sprint extremely quickly and jump extremely far. You can make her flutter, which will cause her to jump even further. The only thing I don't like is her attack. She charges forward, making it very easy to fall off platforms by accident. For a power cell, you must complete a short platforming challenge. Unfortunately, the flut is rarely used. In the game, there is only one more section. This is a pity because these sections are a lot of fun, and I really think they should have included the flut more. We have collected all of the power cells in the area, so let's go talk to Kira.
Great! You have the cells for the machine! They ought to provide enough power to lift that boulder. There we go. Now be careful facing that monster lurker at the top.
Wait! I'll stay here and protect Kira. Jak, I think you're ready to handle that monster without me.
Oh, really heroic of you.
With the boulder out of the way, we can take on the boss Klaww. That sounded so posh when I said it, Klaww.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We must avoid the rocks that Klaww throws at us during the opening phase of the battle. There will be some blue echo inside one of the rocks. Using the echo will cause a bridge to emerge from the lava. We have to sprint across the bridge while avoiding the boulders. On the other side there is a yellow echo that we can use to shoot at Klaww, causing him to drop a boulder on his head. Because this is a video game, doing this 3 times will defeat him, because that is the law. The most difficult aspect of this fight is avoiding the lava, which is an instant death. The majority of the challenge comes from figuring out the attack patterns. It becomes really simple once you've worked that out. Making our way forward, we arrive at the mountain pass. It's another zoomer section, and we have to race the lurkers to the finish line before they detonate the explosives. The simplest approach to complete this level is to collect as much as you can the first time around and then return later to clean up anything you missed. The reason for this is that a power cell is hidden behind this destructible wall. However, the yellow eco vent must be opened before you may proceed, and the mechanism to activate such a vent is discovered later on in the game. Volcanic Crater is the game's final hub area, and like the others, we discover that the Red Sage has been kidnapped.
Oh, look, I always wonder if I'm losing body parts in those things. Holy yakkow! The Red Sage's lab looks worse than the Blue's.
Well, it definitely looks as though there's been a struggle here.
I'd hardly call it struggle. Would you, dear sister?
Certainly not. The Red Sage gave up with so little effort. No fun at all.
Gall? Is that you? You've finally gone off the deep end, eh? And Maya, I told you the dark eco would affect you both. Nobody ever listens to old Samos. What have you two done with the Blue and Red Sages?
Don't worry about your colorful friends, you old fool. They're perfectly safe in our Citadel. Our special guests.
They have graciously agreed to help us on a little project.
You were wrong, Samos. Dark Eco can be controlled. We've learned its secrets, and now we can reshape the world to our liking.
You can't control Dark Eco by itself. Even the Precursors.
Until now, we've had to scrape by with what little Dark Eco we could find near the surface. But soon, we will have access to the vast stores of Dark Eco hidden deep underground.
Not the silos.
Yes, the silos. They will be opened, and all the Dark Eco of the world will be ours.
But that's impossible. Only a Precursor robot.
Oh, don't look so upset, Samos. We've got big plans for you.
Wait a minute! That was Gall? The same Gall who's supposed to change me back? Gall is the guy trying to kill us? I'm doomed.
We may all be doomed. If they open the silos, the Dark Eco will twist and destroy everything it touches. We simply must get to their Citadel to stop them.
The fastest way there is through the lava tube at the bottom of this crater. A few more power cells and your Zoomer's heat shield should get you across the lava safely.
All right, my boy. You know what to do. Take the flea bag and go round up more power cells.
This region contains only 2 levels as opposed to the 3 in the others. To be honest, this entire hub area feels a bit rushed. There are no quests dedicated to NPCs to fulfill. There are only 2 NPCs and all they want is to trade orbs for power cells, which they have 4 of. Because there are also the Oracle power cells, that means that 6 of the 8 power cells in the Volcanic Crater only require Precursor orbs. You can see why it feels so incomplete. And just the whole area as a whole is a real pain to navigate through. Spider Cave is my least favourite level in the entire game. It's no competition. There are lots of places to fall off, a section where you have to go through in the dark, Dark Eco everywhere, and these fucking spiders. Bastard. Centipedes are eating their way into some tree trunks. If we kill all of them, they will drop a power cell. There are numerous yellow eco vents around the cave. When you hit them once, they begin crawling around the trunk, making them more difficult to hit. Using Jack's goggles, we can manually aim. In the spider cave, there is a secluded section with a lot of scaffolding for us to climb. As we travel higher, it becomes clear that the lurkers are excavating a massive precursor robot. I'm sure it's not important. When you leave the cave, there is a tough part where you must make it to the volcanic crater with enough yellow eco to crack open this box for the hidden power cell. Once Kira has fixed it, you can use the gondola in Volcanic Crater to take yourself up to the top of Snowy Mountain. For me, this level is a bit of a mixed bag. There are many aspects of it that I enjoy, but there are also some that I find very annoying. One of the main annoyances are the checkpoints. There are really few and far between. There's a section where you have to run through an area swarming with lurkers. It is really difficult to complete with the number of enemies and even just getting to the location. However, if you fall or lose all of your health, you'll respawn all the way here, so you have to go all the way back through the vexing ice physics. This game's ice mechanics are extremely difficult to control. It is heavily reliant on Jak's momentum. You often have to punch in the direction you want to go just to acquire enough momentum to move forward. However, if you reform it too close to an edge, you can easily launch yourself off the side. The second and last use of the flut is in this level. There are timed platforms that we use the flut to get across. At the end, we activate the mechanism to open up the gate to the enclosed courtyard. With another pretty simple platforming challenge, we can grab another power cell. It feels a bit out of place to have this in one of the last levels. There isn't much of a punishment for falling as you just fall to the ground. There's also a shortcut up once you reach halfway, so it really seems like it belongs to an earlier level. On the mountain, our main goal is to find a way to activate the yellow eco vents. We can see the apertures under the ice, so we need to figure out a way to get into the chamber. Walking through these trees will lead us to the path that leads to the device, which can be easily overlooked. The path is a little difficult to navigate, especially due to the icy areas. However, once you've made it through, we can grab the power cell and turn on the yellow eco vents. Now that the vents are operational again, we can return to the mountain pass and get the previously unreachable hidden power cell. We can proceed via the lava tube now that we have collected all of the power cells in the area.
Alright! With these additional power cells, I should be able to supply the heat shield with enough power to stand up to this lava. But the shield still has a limit. It will now withstand temperatures up to 800 degrees, but no more. So keep an eye on your gauge. I don't want to think about what those temperatures would do to your zoomer.
This is the final zoomer section in the game, and it is probably the best in the game too. It's significantly longer than the rest, so much so that it has a checkpoint halfway through. But it's one of those checkpoints I mentioned earlier that kind of teleports you ahead and can be a bit confusing. The zoomer, like Jak, can pick up blue eco, green eco and yellow eco, allowing it to fly faster, repair damage and shoot yellow eco bolts. The lava tube necessitates the precise use of yellow eco to eliminate bombs that obscure your path. As we near the end, we must activate the final portal for Kira and Samos.
Hey! Where's old Short, Green, and Wrinkly?
This is terrible. Father is missing. I think Gall and Maya may have kidnapped him as well.
Relax, sweetheart. I got everything under control.
Under control? Lurker armies continue to grow across the land. The sages have been kidnapped. Gall and Maya have gathered enough eco to complete their terrible plan. And to stop them, you're going to have to fight your way through their citadel.
Yeah. That about sums it up.
You've got to rescue my father before it's too late. And Jak, be careful.
Yeah, we will be.
All 4 sages have been abducted, and it's up to Jak and Daxter to navigate the vast citadel and rescue all 4 sages.
It's about time you two decided to show up.
Nice to see you, too. Do they have you mopping the floors now?
There's no time for jokes, Daxter. Gall and Maya kidnapped us to sap our energies to power their abominable machine. It appears they have combined the functional remains of a precursor robot with scavenged artifacts from across the land. Then they added a few diabolical additions of their own, creating the one thing capable of opening the dark eco silos. If you can free the 4 of us, we can use our combined powers to break the force shield surrounding the robot before they use it to destroy the world.
There are several challenges to overcome in order to liberate the sages, each of which requires the usage of that sage's associated eco, apart from Samos. Well, I guess you do need to be alive to rescue him, which is what green eco's for, so I guess technically you are using his eco. I'm not sure how much that counts though. So we know that Goal is the Dark Eco Sage and is actually the one trying to kill us. It's a fairly simple twist, but I don't believe it was intended to be a huge reveal or anything. The story itself is understated. It doesn't go into great depth about the world or the characters. The interactions amongst the small cast of characters provide the majority of the plot. Even in the little that we do see of the characters, they're all well defined and likeable. The main character Jack does not have any spoken lines, but his actions and body language reveal a lot about his nature, like looking at Kira's butt.
Nice.
I love that scene. Despite the fact that he has no spoken lines, the game implies that he can talk. He just gets interrupted by other characters, and by other characters I mean Daxter.
What?
Daxter walks a delicate line between being funny and annoying, kinda like me. I can see how some people could find his character irritating, but his dialogue is well written enough that he never crosses that line for me. He isn't portrayed as brave as his best friend Jack, but he's far from a coward.
Okay, fine. We'll save the world. But do it quickly before I change my mind.
He comes across as overconfident but well-meaning. They make a great pair, and I love the way that they animated Daxter on Jack's shoulder. He'll lean in when Jack is moving fast and hold on for dear life when he attacks. While we don't spend much time with Kira, she and her father communicate with us frequently over the radio, either hinting at what we should do next or complimenting us on our success. Kira assists us greatly during the game, and it's difficult to claim that we would have gotten this far without her.
Hey, baby. What do you say you and I go cruising on this A-Grav Zoomer?
Rule number 1, I don't date animals.
Ah, you don't know what you're missing.
Daxter flirts with her, but she seems to be more interested in Jack. Their relationship is hinted at rather than shown, and the game doesn't go into much detail about it, except when Jack looks at her butt. Nice. To be fair, it is difficult to demonstrate a relationship when one of the participants does not speak. Fortunately, they do go more into it in the sequel. Samos is an old curmudgeon. He genuinely cares about Jak and Daxter, he just doesn't always agree with their choices. His scolding is played for comedy and he has some great quips. There's a lot more to his character than what's portrayed in the first game, but we'll go into that in more detail in a future video. The sages are really just MacGuffin characters, with whom we only have a couple of exchanges. Our two main antagonists, Goal and Maya, are undoubtedly the weakest links in the cast. While they are in command of the lurkers, they do not feel like the villains because they do not look like lurkers and have no actual presence within the levels. They just appear in a few cutscenes and that's about it. And Goal's sister Maya is a completely meaningless character. I don't even know why they even bothered including her. She does nothing and contributes nothing to the plot.
It's up to you two to figure out how to destroy the robot.
Oh, right. I get to help the guy that turned me into a furball destroy the only person who can turn me back!
First, save the world. Then we'll try to convince Klaww to help Daxter.
You're too late, Samos. Once I possess limitless Dark Eco, I will have the key to creation itself.
This is madness! Releasing that much Dark Eco will destroy everything we know. Just look what it's done to you.
It has given us a beauty beyond anything you could understand.
Beauty? Have you two looked in the mirror lately?
Just wait until we open the silos, little one. You think short and fuzzy is bad.
And to think, you two traveled all this way for my help. Fools! Enjoy your front row seats to the recreation of the world!
Jack! Take the elevator up and stop that robot!
Here we have to stomp onto this huge button to make the elevator travel up. We charge up with the blue eco and use the floating platform to get to the dark eco silo, and then the final fight begins. We'll be facing the Precursor robot that was excavated from the spider cave. A precursor robot is a sort of precursor statue used as a weapon by the precursors. They are huge humanoid-shaped robots built entirely of precursor metal, with an insectoid head and bright bug eyes and an oracle-like nose coming from the front of their face. Although Goal and Maya appear to have made several changes to this one. There are 5 phases to the fight. The first phase is mostly free. All you have to do is shoot the eye with the yellow eco. When enough damage has been caused, the robot will bomb the platform on which Jak is standing. We can evade the blast by jumping into the air using the blue eco. Enemies will spawn from the dark eco in phase 2. To go to the next phase, we just need to defeat all of the enemies. The third phase is the most difficult. Mines will go off and we'll have to hop over the explosive waves while shooting the robot. When we've hit it enough times, we'll go on to phase 4. During this phase, we must use yellow eco to shoot at the robot once more. This time though, it will answer with a massive cannon.
Righty-o, it does exist.
They must not be allowed to get it!
White Eagle! That could be the stuff to change me back! Or it might stop that robot. Stay fuzzy, save the world. Choices. Okay, fine. We'll save the world, but do it quickly before I change my mind!
The final phase only requires us to gather some white eco, after which Jak will be able to eliminate the precursor robot once and for all.
Do something!
Well, it looks like I may have been too hard on you boys. You do have what it takes to be heroes.
But Daxter, now we can't change you back.
Don't worry about me, baby. You know what they say. Big things come in small packages.
Jak, you have an incredible talent for channeling eco. Samos, you may have been right about this one after all.
And Kira, without your help and ingenuity, none of this would have been possible. Perhaps we've found another sage now that Gaul and Maya are lost.
Yes, Gaul and Maya. The Dark Eco probably destroyed them. Probably.
Ah, who cares? Bring 'em on! We can take 'em again! Right, Jak? I said, right, Jak? Wow! Put it on ice, big guy!
And that brings the first Jak and Daxter game to an end. They do tease that Goal and Maya may return in a sequel. However, for those of us who are aware of the series' significant directional shift, this never happens. If you collect all of the power cells, you'll be rewarded with an additional ending cutscene after the credits. Technically, you only need 100 power cells, and there are 101 in the game. I'm not actually sure if this sequence still plays if you only have 100 power cells, and I'm not replaying this again just to check.
We're heroes, remember? We have 100 power cells.
It's so beautiful.
By the Precursors.
Unfortunately, this is the only reward for completing the game fully, and we won't be able to see what's behind the door until the sequel. Because of this, I wouldn't say that this game is worth 100%ing for this reward, but it is worth it in some ways because the game is a lot of fun to play. It's really satisfying to collect everything in a level and see it ticked off your list. Jak and Daxter is a fantastic platformer. The controls are almost perfect, and the various platforming challenges and missions are a lot of fun to complete. While the story is a bit underdeveloped, the adventure is carried by its charming world and characters. But like I said at the beginning of the video, this trilogy is messy, and the sequel makes a huge left turn, making this first game seem a little out of place in the trilogy that it started.
Oh well. Bye-bye.